Hey, welcome back to the channel. All right, it's time for the final and, in my opinion, the best class in our semi-annual top 10 rankings, right? We did this in December. Hopefully you've been enjoying all of the classes we've done so far in June. It's been an absolute blast, and it really forces me to think through my own personal opinions. Now, hopefully you know I do a monthly tier list. Been doing it for over 3 years now, and all that is run by the MCoC Illuminati, get their thoughts, their opinions, their experiences, and kind of put that all together. And then, we put out the tier list. Now, this is going to be different. I poll my server. People with roles of honor, the most active members, get to nominate champions for each of the rankings that we'll be doing. And then I give my own personal rankings and tier lists, right, too. Those of you who've seen skill, I think will be potentially very, very surprised, but it is my honest opinion. I'm going to do the same thing here with science. If you're looking for a monthly tier list, because I'm taking the month off from this, we're already doing all of this. I don't think we need to do the full list. We'll be doing that again next month. BMcG will still be doing his. You can check out his channel. It's a phenomenal tier list. I enjoy watching that video. And then Campo MC has been doing his top 10 channel celebration. I've really enjoyed those as well and learned a lot from them. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this, right? This is, for me, this is the best class. We did this by looking at my monthly tier list and kind of calculating it out. And as we've gone on and gotten better at the classes, it's gotten more difficult to narrow it down to just 10. So the honorable mentions are a little bit longer. The videos tend to be a little bit longer. I will give you my servers rankings, and then based on suggestions and asks of last year, when we did this in December, I'll spend more time talking about my champions and my list. My servers honorable mentions were Jessica Jones, Anti-Venom, Spam, Mr. Negative, OG Hulk, and Void. Kind of hard for me to see some of these names and know they're not on my list. And I didn't make them an honorable mention because honorable mention just got so long, but I really they're phenomenal champions. Remember, we're looking for the flaws. We're looking for ways to differentiate between these champions. This is top 10 in the strongest class in the game. There's a lot of phenomenal champions that aren't going to be mentioned. My honorable mentions were Void, Immortal Abomination, She-Hulk Thing, and OG Hulk. If you know how much I enjoy those champions, you know how good this class is, in my opinion. All right, let's go ahead and jump in right away to the number 10 champions. The number 10 champion on my server's list was actually a tie, and it's going to be on mine as well. For my server, it was Captain America Infinity War and Immortal Abomination. And then on mine, it's honestly, it was Overseer and Captain America Infinity War. And I had them as a tie because I'd like to talk about something very quickly. And I think this is important. A lot of you ask me, like, should I rank up this champion? Rank up that champion. And you'll do it often on tier list videos. And for me, I'm like, I think what you're essentially asking is asking for like that nuance. You already kind of know what you think you should do, but maybe you're looking for confirmation. I mean, it was a tier list and you could see where I rated them. And so what I'll often tell you is rank up the champion that you enjoy playing the most. And that's for two different reasons. And one reason is, there's for three in a way, is that it's a game. This should be fun. Two is, in my opinion, if you enjoy the champion, you're going to play them more, and you're more likely to really read through their kit, test out their abilities, test out their interactions, and you're going to become very good at that champion, where if you don't like them, chances are you're really not going to dive into them and probably not play them anywhere near their maximum capabilities. And the last but not least is, in my opinion, it's highly unlikely you enjoy playing a terrible champion, because if they're absolutely terrible, you're probably going to struggle. You're going to not be able to get through nodes and defenders. It's going to cost you a lot of items and units. And so you almost have like your own built-in safety net. And all of that leads to, we play this game differently now. I have a channel member who's been a channel member for a very long time, and they've played this game almost completely attached to Captain America Infinity War. And there was a period of time where he was probably the best one or two science champions in the game. I don't remember if he was here before Human Torch or vice versa. And with his signature ability and getting that to a high enough level, and with all the various synergies and bringing along the team making, you can clear a tremendous amount of content. And my channel member, Ozfan, shout out to Ozfan, what's up, dude? Does this. That's not how I enjoy playing the game, but I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum. Like, that is just as valid as the way I'm enjoying it. And so I can't help but recognize this is an incredibly powerful champion that you can do this with and clear all the content in the game, do relatively high tier war, do AQ, do all the things. And I have to recognize that Captain America Infinity War is maybe the only champion in the game who is capable of doing that. And that deserves to be recognized. spent a lot of time on number 10. We're not gonna spend as much time on all of them, but I did want to get that out and kind of set the tone. My own personal 10, or tied with Cap for me, is Overseer. Now, if we're talking about pure well-roundedness, if you want a workhorse, of course it's Cap. But the way I'm more playing the game with these nuance, right? And we talked about specialized versus niche, and you want a specialization. Overseer is phenomenal. It was very hard for me to realize I actually don't have him higher up on this list. I told you that when I saw the 7-star pool, he stood out to me as possibly or probably the best champion in it. Shows you how much things change, how much experience can change, how fast things can change. I still think he's definitely one of the best champions in it. If I were to dupe him, if I was to awaken him, I'll be very excited about taking him to rank 2. Remember, he's got the nullify and immunity, and then I've done so many videos on him. If you're wondering about that, you want him at Sig 1, right? That Sig 1 is a really nice big deal, and then every Sig level afterwards is very, very powerful. He really benefits from it. But you want the Sig 1, and then go check out my videos on him. I've done a tremendous amount. I want to move forward in this video as we get to number 9. Number 9 on my servers rankings was Cassie Lang. You're going to see her further on in mine, so we won't spend a bunch of time talking about her. And then in mine, and this was the end of a tier, I have Mr. Negative, Overseer, and then, like I said, Cap. Overseer and Mr. Negative to me are very similar, right? Both have that nullify immunity, and then they're going to handle things very differently after that. Mr. Negative has ways of getting around Mystic Dispersion, which is why I think we see him in a lot of war, battlegrounds, and that sort of thing. Overseer is benefiting from the defender actually gaining power. And for me, Overseer is going to be superior where he is immune to something, right? If he's immune to the nullify, it's powering him up, getting that gamma. Or if he's immune to the poison or something like that. Mr. Negative also has outrageous, incredible highs that extremely skilled players are able to pull off. You get to that SP2, or you could even go to the SP3. We see MP Blaze and Munash doing this sort of thing time and time again on YouTube. I highly recognize how powerful Mr. Negative and Overseer are. They're very different and yet can fulfill similar roles for someone like me. I think if you really invest in one of them, though, you're going to achieve highs that are very, very remarkable. And I could see people saying they should be higher up in this list, but I think that's just a testament to how good science is. Let's get to the number 8 champion. This one shocks me because he is one of the most fun champions to play, in my opinion. Now, I've mainly used him, though, in Battlegrounds. And so taking him over the course of a full quest or that sort of thing, I think if you probably get very good with him, you're going to minimize the initial damage loss, right, or health loss from before he starts getting those spots going. He's a phenomenal champion. Him using his miss mechanics are so great in this game because they allow you to create openings that otherwise didn't exist. They're phenomenal. Those champions can be a little harder to use as you get used to them. I'm on my way to getting used to using Danny Moonstar. You used to Spot. He's a phenomenal champion. My server's number 8 champion was Titania. We'll talk about her a little bit more later. And then Spot with that signature ability, right? Nick136, I believe Legacy, and then of course Karate Mike put out some really nice videos on it where you're letting the opponent hit into your block, and then I believe you're doing the medium through in your special, and you're getting these massive bursts. We're seeing him really be a star in Battlegrounds, both offensively and defensively. I love Spot, and he's a champion that ideally I would like to take to rank 5 one day or pull that 7-star. Now that would be the ticket. He has a phenomenal synergy with America Chavez, so of course I'm aware of that and I love that. I feel very confident about him being my number 8, and it honestly feels weird to me to not put him higher, but I do think you're going to see this exercise has made me, and this is what happened in December of last year too, our next monthly tier list, you're going to see some adjustments. I'm almost positive of it. Number 7 on my servers list was Quicksilver. Again, you'll see him higher on mine. Interesting how much I'm having champions higher than they are. Number 7 for me is Titania. Now, we're getting into the true buff immune champions now. Spot could do it through his SP1. The other ones were nullify immune. You get this buff immunity, which is very unique in this game. And then if they are good without it, then I think that makes them exceptional. And Titania is very good. She's great, even without the buff immunity. And then you add on, we've been talking at length about this in these videos, so I won't belabor this point, but champions that are unique in their class and be able to go unstoppable, unblockable, and indestructible on a pretty regular schedule is outrageously unique. You can play her very aggressively And I actually had to like discount a little bit. Part of me wanted to put her higher up, but I know that my experience with her is with a 7-star Awakened Sig 20 Titania, and therefore I'm really punching down very often as far as when I'm taking her into war and things like that. So based on purely that experience, I actually wanted to put her higher because of the amount of power she is putting out, the amount of damage she's putting out. I talked about how Mist creates opportunities while going unblockable, indestructible, and unstoppable passively also creates a lot of openings for you, and then just does tremendous damage. And you can even see her being used now. I used it myself the other day. Mike has put out a video on it, taking out Nick Fury's, not canceling the full second life, but really minimizing the length of time that lasts. Bitter Steel's been doing phenomenal videos. There's so many people love her. There's a reason why I have her at number 7. Again, another champion. It just feels odd to not have her higher, but I want to discount that I've been playing with a 7-star rank too. Number 6 on my server's rankings was Spiderman 99. That for them, this was a bit of an ending of a tier, right? With Spiderman 99, Quicksilver, and Titania. And I get it. I'll talk about Miguel here in a little bit because my number 6 is actually Cassie Lang. And she's very different than Titania. Questions that I get asked often are like, well, which one's better? And for me, it's like, well, they're different, right? Titania she benefits from her debuffs, but she doesn't need them to stay on. Cassie does, right? So if you're taking a node or a defender that's going to be shrugging your debuffs, then you really can't use Cassie. You could use Titania, but if the node was it shock and poison, I believe that's Cassie's dual immunities, then you really can't use Titania, but you can use Cassie. So it's what we've talked about in this game, where the game's gotten so big and complex, and yet somehow gotten away from the ultra niche and more into these specialized, where champions have these crossovers with their abilities and their strengths, but it's like a Venn diagram where there's going to be parts where they don't cross over, and Cassie and Titania complement each other phenomenally well. Also, and I can apply this to Cassie, like I said with Titania, is if they're a good to great champion without the buff immunity, and then you add that, you've got a heck of a champion. And I think that definitely applies to Cassie. I recently dove into Cassie. I did the video on her, and I can tell that the community is getting receptive to how powerful she is. The video actually didn't do very well in its first couple of days out, and it was a little disappointing because I put a lot of work into it, and I really do believe she may be... I would not be surprised if she is significantly higher on this list, and just if I did it in a couple months, but definitely in December. I've noticed the community's attitude changing on her because that video has picked up since those first couple of days. Now, she's come out and she's bugged, right, with the taunt. However, the way the taunt's going to be fixed is the way it was intended. It's still going to be very, very tanky. And if you spec your masteries into inequity, which I believe, inequity, and you should be doing that if you're running these science champions or playing battlegrounds. It's a great mastery. You're still going to achieve those really tanky numbers when you get the taunt and a few debuffs up. She has the dual immunities to, like I said, I think it was shock and poison as well. She does have the ability to go to the large SP2 with the guaranteed crits if you've got enough of your power stings up and you have the taunt as well. She doesn't need any of her synergies. And and like I've talked to you again at length about, I love her signature ability. You get it Sig 1, you get something. Every Sig level after that, you're getting some more cool stuff. It's very powerful. I think she's worthy of investment. She is a phenomenal champion, and I think she's very great for where the game is now and where it's clearly headed. I really think she's on the rise. This is not the peak of Cassie for us in MCoC. Moving on, my server's number 5 was actually Mr. Fantastic. He also is a little higher up in mine. It's going to be interesting to see when they actually switch. Number 5 in mine is Spider-Man 99, and this one's tough. As you know, if you've watched my channel long enough, you know that I mained him in War without even intending to do it for, I don't know, what felt like 5 seasons, to the point where I actually got very bored of playing him. That's not his fault. He's a phenomenal champion. Again, I can apply the same logic. He's a great champion without the buff immunity, and then having it, he's phenomenal. And he's helping you deal with all of this power gain, right? Yeah, you can bring this in with anti-venom, and that is really helpful. And in a lot of my war videos, you saw it. But I know other players like White Mummy, and because we've DM'd and talked about it, who took these same fights without it. And I eventually got to the point where some of my planners, particularly here in SSX, were allowing me to take some Spider-Man Miguel fights without the anti-venom synergy, because you can get it under control. The synergy just allowed you to start with your Wither, but you get the Wither from the SP2. With some nice playing, you can use this heavy for, I think it's the exhaustion. You can get to your SP2 in a lot of these fights. He's gonna handle them for you. You don't have to only hit him to block. It's a great strategy. It's very powerful. It's great in war. You just want to make sure you keep up your Wither. You want to use your decks, and there are other sources of damage. He's got the Ruptures, and I think he's even got the physical vulnerability off of the SP1. You just rarely got to see it. He's a fantastic champion. Part of me thinks he's probably going to be moving down, but it's kind of like from you at Titania, where I discounted Titania because I knew I was playing with the 7-star. I want to discount my thinking Miguel's losing prominence feeling by the fact that I just played him so much. I had him early at rank 4, 6200. I just played him a ton. And so I think I'm actually just kind of a little bit bored of him. But his status, his prestige, his value in the game is just as relevant as it's ever been, because handling ability power rate is a big deal. The other thing, now that I'm really talking about, this is why this is such a good exercise for me too. I'm glad you enjoy it, because it's a great exercise for me in getting advice and tier lists out, is he's not great in Battlegrounds. Now, it's just literally today, it looks like they're going to change the scoring so that coming out with full health or more health and being a little bit slower might actually have a chance to exist and be competitive. So let's see if Spider-Man 99 is a little bit better in Battlegrounds, because he was always just about 10 to 15 seconds too slow. Maybe with the new scoring, a champion like him is able to exist and be at the top of the game, in which case he may even move up in the rankings. All right, now number 4, my server's number 4 was Spot, and that was the end of a tier. They had Spot and Mr. Fantastic, and that was a clear, distinct tier. For me, my number 4 is Mr. Fantastic, and this is the end of a tier. The tier for me was Mr. Fantastic, Spider-Man 99, Cassie, Titania, and Spot. I really think you could interchange them. If you came and told me you think Spot's definitely number 4, I'd be like, yeah, I hear you. I really do. That's how good science is, and how well the Kabam, the designers, have done with making them specialized. So they still have real value. There's great reason to rank them up, and they are different than each other. So here's something about Mr. Fantastic. I think he's so misunderstood by the community. Is he's handling combat power, and he has the Petrify. I will, especially now that the Battlegrounds scoring change is changing, and I'll try to get this out before the next season. I don't know if it's going to be possible. I'm looking at my calendar right now. I used him very successfully in one of the metas for this last season of Battlegrounds. He was a big part of me making it up as high as I did. And he's definitely someone that will benefit from scoring potentially changing to having champions who are coming out with 90 to 100% health, maybe 10 to 15 seconds slower, maybe even 20. If that makes it competitive, again, you're gonna see Mr. Fantastic's prominence, prestige, aura, whatever you want to call it, reputation in this game, I think continue to go up. And I really don't believe anyone saying that it's bad as it is. Like I said, Mr. Fantastic, Miguel, Cassie, Titania, Spot, it's really like, just what did you want that day? All right, now we're at the highest tier though. Let's talk about number 3, 2, and 1. Okay, my server's number 3 was Overseer, and science is so good. I can't say you're wrong objectively. Like, I don't feel like you're saying 2 plus 2 is 8. I have him lower, but you saw how much I like him. You know how much I like him. You've seen me use him time and time again. I love that champion. So they have him there. I get it. I respect it. I think he's valuable, and I see it. My number 3, and I know some of you are like, oh man, after the Nick Fury rank, now you're doing this. I believe it. I truly believe it. Yes, against energy damage, against mystics, Torch is capable of doing things that basically no one else can do. And in Battlegrounds, that's really valuable. And in single fights in war, it's really valuable. I actually think, and as you've seen this now, I actually think Human Torch is aging better and showing a better like full design. He's not just good because of some crazy stats that were put on him, right? Now, Nova Flame is kind of crazy. And I think it's good that you can only do it once. He's phenomenal. He's fantastic. He's going to beat that step up for you. Keep in mind, too, that I'm looking for different ways of differentiating between these champions. Being the top 3 in the best class of the game is pretty darn good. He can handle miss mechanics for you too, and I do think that's helping him, right? With Spider Supreme being a difficult defender, and then Spider Supreme charging up Human Torch so fast that Human Torch can't miss, and then that's helping that a lot. I think he's a great champion. I don't think he's falling off yet, but if he doesn't come out as a 7-star for quite a while, I think you're going to see it happen similar to what we saw with Magic and Quake. It doesn't mean that he's no longer good. It just means he can't punch up. All right, my server's number 2 was Human Torch. My number 2 is Quicksilver. And again, I'm aware, but I'm aware a lot of you do not like his animations. You do not like his combos. I totally get that. But I also feel like I need to get out my opinion of what I think is true and accurate. And so many times when I'll tell you, like I remember with Shang-Chi, I demoted him. I was like, well, because I think you really need to be very skilled. And so many of you commented and said like, well, just put the high skill emoji. Because he's still possible. It's still, his ceiling's still there. And it's like, yeah, you know, I agree with that train of thought, and I'm going to continue to stick with it with Quicksilver. I'm going to apply it to Quicksilver because if I can get used to his combos, I really believe you can. And I've used him in so much. I use him in Grandmaster's Gauntlet. I use him in War. I use him in Battlegrounds. Talk about a champion where an extra 10 to 15 seconds might be a big deal for him in Battlegrounds. And I know that he is packed full. So a lot of you be like, wait a minute, you said Fury's packed full of utility, but like he wasn't the greatest at it or whatever. Well, here's the thing. Quicksilver's utility, he is great at. And I've often talked to you about flow, where you just play the champion and the good things happen. And Quicksilver has phenomenal flow. As he's getting his charges, I don't remember what they're called right now, but as he's working towards terminal velocity, he gets up that slow mechanic. So he's handling evade and unstoppable, and then just by dexing, instead of, he doesn't get the dex buff. So he's not nullify immune and he's not buff immune, but he doesn't get the dex buff, which is really big. And by doing that, he also then handles miss. So he's handling unstoppable, evade, and miss. And you're doing that just by playing the game. If you can land a heavy, you're going to get there even faster. But if not, you can just 5-hit combo, throw your special one, and you're there. And you've now handled all that stuff. And unless the health pool is just some incredible number, you're going to keep all of that until you've defeated the opponent. Additionally, as you're on your way up, you get to where he can parry non-contact attacks. Now, I love Shuri, and I know you've heard me talk about Shuri, and I'm getting out my Shuri videos, and I love placing her sometimes on defense in Battlegrounds. But here you go. He can parry them. It takes a little bit to get there. I think it's not until he gets 600, so it takes a little bit longer, but he can get there. And then, like I said, he's got all the wither. You all just got tired of my videos, so I stopped putting them out. But I have videos of him taking Mangog. I have videos of him doing so much. He also has a built-in safety mechanic. You know that evade that he has that's so annoying, right? You parry him, you do the light attack because you know he's gonna evade, and you trigger it, and then you end up forgetting about it, and then later on in the fight, he beats you on it because you've forgotten about this mechanic that he has. And because there's so much going on, it makes him very safe to try intercepts with. I've used it, you can get stunned. I've used it in Alliance Quest on, I can't think of the name of the node. You guys know I'm terrible with this stuff, but the node like stuns you if you're not throwing a special while the stun timer's up. If you get stunned that way and the defender tries to attack you, you'll evade out of it. It's like full, I've done it so many times on, it's the bottom lane on the right side in section 2 of AQ. I can't even think what it is. It's like, he makes the Sasquatch like almost fun to take. He is phenomenal. And if you're still like unconvinced after all of that, check out MP Blaze's channel. Stop checking out mine, because obviously if my videos haven't convinced you yet, they're probably not going to. Check out MP Blaze's. He's got so much great Quicksilver and War. Oh, all the things. Quicksilver is a phenomenal champion, and I'm telling you that the big difference with his utility from some of these other champions where I kind of knock them from having all this utility is that, yes, he's got all the names, they're thrown into his kit, but for him, they're easily accessible. They're easy to keep up once you've accessed them, and they happen just by playing it. You don't have to set up an intercept. You don't have to like knock anyone down. You don't have to medium light. There's no like, you don't have to injure combos in a light. You don't have to keep throwing the same special over and over. You can build and play the node And while you're doing it, all of that utility I just mentioned just naturally happens. Give him another chance. All right, number one. I mean, I think if anyone disagrees, I think they either just really like another champion, which is fine. I'm not going to yuck your yum, or they just haven't played Scorpion. And here's the bonkers part. This is Scorpion without his synergies. You throw on, what is it, the Venom or Agent Venom synergy, and he goes from bonkers to like, I don't know, what's triple bonkers? I'm getting tired, so I can't think of anything clever on top of that. Let me know if you can in the comments. What does Scorpion go to when he's got that synergy? And then he's got the synergy with Toad where he gets a refreshable slow as well. He's one of the, by far the best attackers in Battlegrounds. He's one of the by far best attackers in Alliance War. He's one of the by far the best attackers for general questing. He's amazing. You can pick what damage source you want. You can pick what immunities you want. He's even a decent defender if they don't have an evade counter. There's really not much more that's being said about Scorpion, aside from when we do the best champions of 2022, is it him or Hulkling? Then where's he gonna where's he gonna show up on the best 20 champions overall in the whole game? So I haven't really gone through those lists yet and really just sat down and analyzed it, but he's gonna be pretty high in all of it. He's phenomenal, he's amazing, and in the best class in the game, his damage is so fast and so easily and quickly accessible that despite having less utility than all the stuff I just listed with Quicksilver, because I do recognize Quicksilver takes some setting up. I get that. And he's harder to play. Scorpion's still, for me, the clear number one best champion. He just is. The way the game is, what the game is asking us to do, the modes of the game that give you the best rewards, he's the best. Thank you so much for watching. I enjoy doing this. I'm already looking forward to doing it in December. You know I do the monthly tier list. I love doing it. We'll get out the best top 10 of 2023 or 2022. Sorry, that's already being voted on by my server like right now as we speak. I put up the vote earlier today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know. Do you agree? What did I get right? What did I get wrong? And as always, let me know. My server versus me. Who do you agree with more? Thank you so much for watching. Take care.